Oh, hello everybody. I'm just back from the slopes and let me tell you it's cold, cold, cold out here. I'm going to warm up for a moment whilst you hear all about my latest film. Previously on the weather. Oh, that's better. Hello and welcome back to the weather. I'm your host, Abi Palmer, and you just watched a tiny extract from episode 2 of my film series, Abi Palmer Invents the Weather. Fog explored winter as a sense of crisis, the big, long, chilly pause that catches me every year and stops me moving. My two collaborators, Lola Lola and Cha-u-Kao, explore methods of survival, the contrast between dark and light, and building a warm, comfy hidey hole in which to hibernate. If you haven't seen the film yet, it's available right here on Art Angel's YouTube until the end of March. But right now, why not sit by the fire and warm with me? Yet again, it does look like I'm the first guest to arrive, but I'm sure you'll all have a million questions for my co-stars. Let's see where they are. Okay, so I actually don't know where Lola and Cha-u are today. They've been very curious about what's been going on. They're starting to get the hang of this TV malarkey. Let's have a look. Oh, I think I might have found one. Oh, but I forgot my microphone. 1 second. Take you back on a little tour. Do you want to see backstage? Looking good. We've come a little bit closer today. I had a little sign here that said pick up mic. Pick up mic. And did I? Did I not? Let me go and find these cats. Oh, there's a little lady. Lola. Do you want to be in an interview? Hello, Lola. Hi, Lola. Lola. How do you feel about fog being a metaphorical space? She's not terribly keen, is she? It's like she's sick of the paparazzi. Lola, do you want to tell me how you feel about do you want to tell me how you feel about collaborating with humans as well as animals? She does not. Okay. Not a chatty catty, is she? Let's see if we can find her sister. Let me take you, anyone who was watching last week, you'll remember that I was complaining about my new bathtub. This week, I'm pleased to say, there's no black mold. Very exciting stuff. I'm sure you've all been tuning in to find more about that content. Let me take you over here. I'm going to show you a little area. This is Lola's play den. This was where she was just a minute ago. She's really sad that this project's over. So every day I go for a little bit of a walk and bring her back a stick. And as you can see, we've got quite a lot of sticks now. And this is her favourite fish. We call it Mrs. Fish. Sorry for gendering you, fish. Okay, let's see if we can find Cha-u. I think I might know where she is. Cha-u! Cha-u! What did you learn about winter from this existential movie? Cha-u. Did it feel disappointing to you that a film entitled Fog didn't really have very much fog in it? Do you think that we successfully encapsulated the feeling of the queer family? Not too chatty. Let's go back to the studio. Well, hello again, my friends. It's still me, Abi Palmer, and this is still your favorite talk show / after party, The Weather. Right now, my collaborators appear to be fairly incommunicative, but what can I say? I had a feeling this might happen. This week, you're in for a double treat, but with one, but not two very special guests. Instead of telling you how we met, let me tell you about this wonderful moment 3 Thursdays ago, where I met up with artist number 1, numero uno, in Soho for a platter of sushi and gossip. And then together, we went to the Soho Theatre just around the corner to watch a show in which artist number 2 emerged from a chrysalis wearing a giant nappy and began headbanging to the song Pretty Fly for a Larvae. For that brief moment in time, we were all together and it was wonderful. I'm delighted it's happening again so soon. So let's give a big weather welcome to the artists Sop and Spisto.
Well done.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going, everyone? We've actually got a third special guest here. Is that Pat the cat? So
It's Pat the cat. She apologises for her feline friends being so quiet.
Yeah, well, one of them is just going to the toilet in the cat litter box in front of me, so that's also
when you gotta go, you gotta go.
There's an opinion there. It could be.
That's true. I thought maybe we could start by doing a visual description of ourselves for our audiences. Is that okay for everyone? So maybe Dre, would you mind going first?
Yeah. So I have dark black hair and really bushy eyebrows. I've decided to put some blue lighting in the room so my face is kind of saturated, so it looks kind of blue and orange. I've got freckles, a bit of a mustache, which I've been growing and I'm very proud of, and a bright orange top.
Thank you. I have really been admiring your mustache recently. I'm thinking it looks great.
Thank you.
Sop, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so here I am. I tried to make I'll talk about the background first, but I tried to make fog, but make it spring and jolly. I am a white-skinned person with red short hair and a t-shirt, with a rude t-shirt, Madonna, and a little polo neck, yellow polo neck. And Patty back.
Patty is the most beautiful member of this party by far. I mean, we're all starting.
I don't know. You look pretty fabulous, Abby.
Thank you. Well, let me describe myself. I am a light-skinned white woman with a white fluffy hat on and a white fluffy rimmed sweater with very sparkly earrings that are like shaped like little hearts with dangly bits. Behind me in the background, there's a lot of plant pictures and a very glamorous pink chaise-longue. And my makeup has been designed as if I had been hitting the ski slopes and got sunburned.
Ski slopes?
Pardon?
You haven't been on the ski slopes today?
Oh yeah, no, sorry, it's an optical illusion. Oh god, I hope that hope disability benefits people don't come after me being like, you've been skiing, missus.
With those diamond earrings, how can you afford that?
Yeah, clearly we're giving you all too much money. And just a reminder for the audience, if you have questions for any of us, you can ask them on YouTube via the comments thread or on Twitter via the hashtag Abi Palmer invents the weather. We'll be answering questions at the end of the show. But I feel like we've got off to a good start. It was nice to see you both the other day.
Yeah, it's been nice to see people in real time out in the world. Thank you so much for coming to my show. It was definitely felt really good to have you both there. So yeah,
it was an eye-opener.
I wanted to ask, what does it mean to be a larvae?
What does it mean to be a larvae?
Yeah.
What do you mean, like in related to my show in general?
And life, I think like it would be really great for the audience to explain so something that I think connects all of our work is this sort of sense of like hibernation sometimes, and like, are we emerging, where do we fall? And I wondered if you could explain to the audience what being a larvae has been for you.
Okay, now I know. Okay, so basically I mean, caterpillars are they're larvae. They're babies essentially, before they kind of mature and they become butterflies. And when the pandemic happened and I went through like, all of the deep, intense like suffering that we all went through, and depression and like kind of dealing with like all of those experiences, I was wondering about what it would be like if I was a nobody. And at first it sounded like a very depressive idea of being a nobody. But then I was like, but wait, who is nobody? And what does nobody do? And nobody cares, so I started realizing that being a nobody, as opposed to this pressure that we have in this like capitalist society to be somebody and constantly trying to become or better ourselves, or like, we're going to get better, or you're going to get fixed, or you're going to get sorted, or like change is going to happen in a way where it's going to be better than what you are now. And I wanted to kind of like go through the other side and explore what it would be like to actually be a nobody, and like what joy I could find in that. And I was developing an installation, and in the installation, I made like this chrysalis, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm a caterpillar. And so it's like this feeling of being something, being a nobody in my world, to unbecome, or like to kind of remove myself from expectation that is outside of myself. And within that means like, like just moving in a way that is for my own satisfaction, and it's not about pleasing anyone. And so that kind of came from that. And then the more I explored with it, the more I found things that resonated with me, like talking about like my gender identity, or like thinking about insects as this world where we don't really, they don't mind us, and they don't really care about us, and they exist like regardless of what we think of them, so it allowed me a freedom to kind of explore just being myself without those pressures.
Yeah, I really loved that in the show. Like this, I think I told you the other day, but after the performance, I was in the bar, because I know your tech guy, Tom Clutterbuck, a good friend of mine, and one of his friends showed up, and he was asking me this question, like, what was the show about? And I was saying, oh, it's about this larvae that they are a caterpillar that just stay a caterpillar. And he was like, oh, so do they ever become a butterfly? And I was saying, no, they don't. And he was like, I don't know if that's a bit too avant-garde for me. Just process this experience of of it not having this climactic ending, and it has an ending. It's like it has a climax, but it's not the ending that I think the point where it subverts and you realize this is never happening, you're never becoming that butterfly, for me is a point where I start to feel a bit like it feels very liberating. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you just stayed there, because you were expecting something to the big kind of, I mean, you ended it with a big kind of send off, but it was, I loved just like staying in that like, it's not like you're not growing, but you're just being.
And the reason that like the caterpillar butterfly thing is so helpful to subvert is because we are obsessed with this journey, you know, like, and it's also like the way that we're also obsessed in our society with the hero's journey, you know, like, you know, that the hero or heroine is going to go and like they're going to beat these things and afterwards they're going to be this hero. And for me, I'm like, what if we kind of look at it from another perspective, or like, you know, what's in between that? Like, you know, how can I open that up and like see what's like kind of crawling inside of that? And I'm interested in that. And I think that's also something that all of our practices have, you know, like that we are looking kind of in between the cracks of things, and we're our perspectives are like at an angle, so we're finding things that are kind of outside of what we're expecting, at least.
Like I don't know, I've been talking to my friend a lot about like the idea of I think it comes, I might be wrong, but I think it comes from a film called Black Poirot, where the artist I think this is what my friend was explaining to me. The artist explains that like so much of television feels really colonial because it always comes it always has to, like, even when it's not a detective show, it always has this kind of mystery in it where it's trying to get to the core of the thing, and you're always like trying to scratch the surface and be like, what's the one truth that we're getting from this visual journey or this experience? And like some of my favorite TV shows are made by more marginalized communities where that doesn't happen, and it's so rare, but every now and then you find a comedy or a TV show that kind of pushes you sideways and doesn't have a storyline in that typical way that we're like season to expect. And it does something, it feels so, I don't know, like Sop, you and I talk a lot about the term access intimacy and that feeling of like being safe because you don't have to explain yourself to that other person, and that always feel like to me.
It's oh wow, to access intimacy, thinking through the TV show. Whoa. I was just thinking about I hate that I have to, I'm like, so what's the thing that's going to happen? What's the thing that's going to happen? You know, I absolutely hate it. I really despise it in myself. Like this has to go somewhere, but that's TV. Access intimacy. I mean, I think that our friendship is an absolute example of that. Just going in almost immediately being friends, because we come from a level of understanding about our position anyway, and we don't have to do the laborious explaining or over and over and over. So I see access intimacy almost as a not a shortcut, but you're just arriving on the same platform already. So you in a way, access intimacy makes intimacy quicker, I think, between people. I've completely changed the subject now, but
you go. I think that's great. It does make it quicker. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I did say that we should be friends, and you graciously accepted. You know, but it's something which is one of the best things about being friends with disabled, Crip, chronically ill people for me.
Yeah, so like access intimacy, if I haven't explained, I don't know, I don't think I did a very good job of explaining, but for anyone who hasn't had that term, I think it's coined by Mia Mingus, and it's the idea that that like when you meet someone, like I was saying about in watching a TV show, that's not making you explain. When you meet someone that you don't, I think actually you did explain it quite clearly, but like when you meet someone that you don't have to explain your access needs to, and they just accommodate them without asking, it feels like this
yeah, because you're used to thinking in that way, and you do that very well, actually. In fact, I am disappointed that I didn't take up your offer of a ride on your wheelchair up to the Soho Theatre through the streets of, I think is it on Dean Street or something? But, because I needed to
bring a skateboard.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can still have a ride, that's fine.
Oh yes, okay, maybe not through somewhere so busy, and for sure.
We'll do it in the park. I was gonna ask as well, like, so Sop, your project that you did over the pandemic, part of the pandemic that people call the pandemic, was the den, and that was also like in my film about making a den of your own. I wondered if you could explain a little bit about that for.
Sure. So in a kind of a huge panicked flurry, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I moved super quickly because I knew that I would have to shield. So and where I was living, I couldn't really do that. So I moved super quickly, and I kind of arrived here, where I am now, and it's next to a wood. But because I wasn't really supposed to be going out, and it was that stage where we didn't know how dangerous or how this virus was going to act, really. So it was pretty terrifying, obviously. And as a kind of resistance to it, maybe, I decided to, and also because I couldn't sleep, I would visit the wood, which is just there, at dawn, and just explore where I was. And I was incredibly surprised when I decided that it would be a good idea to make a den, because I haven't made one since I was a kid. But it was a very, very kind of primal, natural urge of mine to find somewhere which felt safe in the public. But it wasn't, I mean, in the public in a deserted wood graveyard at 6 a.m. I'm not really going to encounter many people. But so I built a den, and then I made a series of work which kind of narrated my experience of the pandemic and being sick and being isolated and shielding, kind of through nature, and my experience of sitting in this particular spot where there were the birds and the foxes and the bees, and where I felt safe, basically, and then they made various kind of sculptures and invited other people to tell me about their experiences of a den. I mean, if I'd have been making this project now, I would have been asking your cats to explain their experience of a den. But yeah, so it was it was a response to what was going on, and we talked about kind of why. And I think that it's almost kind of it's almost like a form of control, but that doesn't make it sound kind of more proper than it is. But it's I guess it was like really, really scary time, and it was a way of engaging with the world in a safe way, but was contained and relaxing and beneficial for me to be in as well. But it was a hugely primal feeling. And wandering through the woods, I honestly couldn't even tell you, like what year it was. It was just like it was just like going from scratch somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so interesting, isn't it? Like sorry, I've just cut in.
No, that's fine. I was thinking also about because your film, which is why we're here, which I absolutely adore. I mean, I adore them so much. But I rewatched it today, and I thought that because I experienced the den through my senses, which is what you tend to do in nature, because you don't have any other distraction. I didn't take a phone out or anything like that. And that's what your cats are doing. They're just using all of their senses to experience this thing. So all we are is animals trying to find a den, you know?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it really did feel like I really wanted them to have the thing that I felt like I didn't have over the pandemic, which was a sense of sanctuary. I also was like on the sort of semi-shield list where they were like, well, it would be terrible if you got ill, but like we can't protect you that much. And it was such a scary time, and I felt like I'm not ready to go out into the world yet. I felt really lucky that Art Angel commissioned this project where I was allowed to just sit and build these small spaces for my cats, and it almost felt like in the absence of being able to reach nature, having these like small boxes felt like a space that was just big enough for what I could control of my own sense, like creating the smell of winter in a box the size a cat size box. It felt like this, you know, there's this idea of like small world play where like what that kids do where they play with dolls houses and stuff, and I think that I needed to go into that kind of childlike space and remember that sense of wonder and
but that's why kids build dens, you know, to have some kind of small world play actually where you learn about the world through your own tiny little safe environment. So that makes perfect sense. And
I think, Dre, like I saw that in your film Isla Island, where you built this kind of cocoon for yourself as well, and it felt like such a visceral moment in the film where like you'd just been through this awful traumatic grief moment, and it was clear that there were like mental health issues coming out throughout the film, and then it created this kind of moment of like it's this form of survival that I really kind of tapped into as well. It felt really familiar to me, like building a place to hibernate in.
Yeah, and I don't know if both of you had this as kids, but like my mom used to think that I was going to be an architect because like I was always making dens, like, you know, like under chairs and like under tables, and like I would get like a sheet and I would like be building dens, and I would try and like put like lights inside of them. Like I would try and like include like electricity and plumbing and like and all this stuff. But you know, I kind of forgot about that behavior, you know, as we do as we get older. And then and then when I was going through like, you know, like just probably just the barrage of like grief, because at the time I just I really needed to make something to, you know, to exist under. And also through the process of creating a world, you know, you're also changing the perspective of where you sit in it. So like obviously for me, when I'm very overwhelmed and I have many emotions and it's like too much, like what I need in that moment is to change my perspective really quickly. So like when we create smaller worlds, it allows us to like pull out, and it allows a space between us and whatever is going on, because we've created something outside of ourselves, just for a moment, or like, for however long it is that we need that time. So yeah, I think it's an important part. My process as an artist is my process of trying to live in the world. Like that's why I do the things that I do. I'm just trying to figure it out, and so every time that I make something, it's just because I'm trying to figure out how to, how to make it better for myself, or how to change my perspective. But yeah.
Sorry, I keep being the one to resort. I feel like there's three of us here. Like if you want to cut in, feel free. Sorry for I guess I was thinking about that, and the like need for wildness, and why I feel like sometimes that need for control and like grounding, and the need for wildness and the non-human feels really important.
Play as well. I'm rubbish at play. I think that building the den was about the most play. I used to be much better at it, but I was just thinking how all of our projects, a play is like a huge element of it, which is delightful.
Yeah, it's so, I think it's the most important thing. Like whenever I think, oh, I don't have time for this, I'm too like whatever I'm doing is too important to play. It's exactly when I need to play.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the constant. I feel really lucky to have had, like, it's almost 2 years now that I worked on this project with the cats, and to have had that period to kind of get to know, like, the seasons, get to know how they change, and to play with them, like, and just because the filming has stopped, like the collaboration hasn't, they still want that interaction. And I think having that moment where you sort of step outside of yourself, I'm still thinking about the conversation last week with JR, where if either of you watched it, where she showed me this rock that was 340 million years old, and honestly I didn't even know the world, I thought the world was about 3 million years old. So I'm quite embarrassed, but it's really, I knew it was older than Jesus, but I went to Catholic school and I didn't know much more than that. And so, but it was really nice to realize, like, oh, that, like, to zoom out that much and understand everything we do is, like, actually so insignificant, that or to zoom in and look at the tiny little details of, like, of the natural world, or to zoom really out and think I'm actually just a speck of dust. Both of those spaces are much more comfortable in a way.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Oh.
It's that middle bit that is
Bye.
a bit weird.
Patty's gone.
Yes, it is that middle bit that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
I wondered if either of you wanted to talk about your relationship with cats, if we've got time to discuss that.
I'll go first real quick, just because
Yeah.
just because I think it's the right order somehow. Patty, Popper, Poppy is my best mate. We have she brought me through this horrendous last couple of years, and what can I say? She's the feet, I think. But yeah, sorry, that's not very deep or profound, but she's, I have a really, really, really super strong connection with my cat, and I'm really grateful that I live with her. It's just me and her. It can be a little bit much sometimes. She's a little dependent and yells at me quite a lot, but I love her. And she loves me. And she was making a den. She makes dens for herself all the time. She's always under a bloody blanket or whatever. But yes, I watched your film. Well, we showed the films on the same online show, didn't we?
Yeah.
First Place Arts. But yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
Over to you.
I know. Well, I just want to say that I'm really grateful, because Abby was just like, we're going to be talking about cats. So, like, is that okay? And I was like, yeah, of course. But basically, for anyone watching, when I started making my film, Isla Island, which was basically about me going through some mental health stuff, like during the pandemic, in a kind of documentary way, as if I was like a celebrity, you know, like Taylor Swift, who documents her life, you know, and puts it up. But so I was doing that, and in the process of that, me and my partner had gotten a small kitten, and I've had cats my whole life. My mom, when she couldn't really like express my behavior like as a child, and when she had like some difficulty dealing with like how I was, and like, you know, as a small child I didn't want to hug my mom, and like there was like lots of things relating to some autistic people have traits like this, but she would just call me a cat. She would say like, oh, you're just a cat, you're just a funny cat, you know, to like describe like some behavior she couldn't really understand. And throughout my life, you know, our relationship is really connected through cats, basically. So I feel like cats are a way in, really, to others sometimes, like to connecting with other people, and it's helpful for me. But yeah, so we got this little kitten, and I adored her, and like we would spend, you know, all time together. and we called her azúcar, which means sugar in Spanish. And, she was like our everything. Like, I would spend so much time with her. And through the process of filming, actually one of the reasons, basically, she was inside because she was an indoor cat, and me and my partner had different ideas about whether it was okay to have cats indoors and whether it was not, because they weren't experiencing the outside and all of this stuff. And through the filming, we had her for like a year, and then at one point, she got outside and she was run over by a car. And I, like, the grief of it was like, it was horrendous. And I struggled a lot with it. And also a member of my family passed away from COVID as well, so there was just like a lot of grief that was happening. But the grief of my cat was just it was just so specific to our relationship and how much I relied on her for support and care. And when I was in so much grief, I was looking online to see if I could find anything, any help or anything that could help me with it, because of the way that society kind of maybe diminishes like that relationship, or like how a pet might die, and like we don't think that it's as important. But actually for me it was like devastating, like completely devastating. I couldn't do anything. And the only thing I found online was a video of Russell Brand talking about his cat passing away. And honestly, it was the only thing that was just being really honest about his experience. And it was the only thing that helped me through. And there was like thousands of comments underneath of people who were like in secret kind of trying to find something to help them grieve their cat from all different ranges of experience. So when you were making this work, obviously it was very emotional for me, because it was about the topic about like creating the outside world and the inside, and all that stuff. Big.
I'm so sorry. That's I've lost my last cat was 20 when she died, so that was extremely long life. But to die like in an accident, or like suddenly, I can't even imagine.
It was like,
Would you get another cat? Is that there's your other cat.
What does that mean that we have cats? The sound again?
That's a cue. It's time for our first segment. Are you ready?
Yes.
Pumped.
Show your pets the weather. Show your pets the weather.
you, everybody. That little segment was Show Your Pets the Weather, the part of the show where you, the public, get to join in the fun of showing your beloved pets the weather. Thank you again to everyone who sent pet videos my way this week. It is always a delight. Did anyone have a favorite pet of these?
The horse?
Yeah, Sadie the horse. That's a good one, right?
There was also that, like, there was a cute dog that was really annoyed at the rain. It was like,
oh yeah, Stanley the Chihuahua. Yeah, that's Charlie.
Stanley's famous.
Chihuahua. Yeah, Charlie Fitz's famous dog.
famous dog.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's a dog that I know from the internet. So.
It's a horse.
Oh, did you hear that sound? That means it might be time for our next segment. Are you ready? We just keep the fun coming.
I like my pets, you like your pets, let's like our pets together. And now it's time to show my pets, your pets being shown the weather.
Thank you. Thanks for that segment. That was Lola being very bored by she wasn't into Sadie the horse at all. I don't think she knows what a horse is.
How would she know?
How would she know?
Now she does.
I mean, she gets really excited. We were watching. She sometimes when she's bored and I don't have time, I don't have energy to like play with her. I do what a good parent would, put on the TV for my kid. So I put on cat TV, and there's like this little show she really likes about mice. It's not really a show. It's just a footage of some mice in a hole. And she started doing this thing where she jumps up and puts a little paw on the mouse. Onto the stage, onto the screen. It's so instinctive, but also so delicate. Like, it's very, very sweet.
I tried to show Patty, hang on a minute, Patty showing the pets. I don't know where I am anymore, but she wasn't interested either. It's just too conceptual for her.
Yeah, it's conceptual. Lola did watch footage of herself watching some TV the other day, and I think she recognizes herself. She was quite
No way.
Yeah.
She recognizes herself.
I think so. Like, she's always been quite interested in her own reflection, but it's hard to say, is it recognition or is it something else? It's really interesting.
She's a star.
Yeah, she just knows. I mean, she's very pretty. Like, if you look that good, you'd recognize yourself too.
Exactly.
So we have some questions from the audience. I think we can start with Sop's question to Dre, which was, would you get another cat? Are you thinking of getting another cat?
So, well, basically, there's a cat on my road who is not being looked after very well by the person who owns it. However, the whole road knows about this cat and regularly checks in on it, gives it blanket, gives it food. And I've also addressed this to check in on the cat with people, and they've checked with the owners, and the owners don't want to give it away. But this cat is an icon. I've called him Trash Kitty because he is gorgeous. He's got like so much hair, and he sits on the trash, and he's so loyal to that house. So I've started a relationship with this cat where, I check in on Trash Kitty every day and, check that it hasn't got fleas and like make sure that if it's really cold out, I see if it's like outside or like what
Mhm.
it's got to do. So yeah, it's kind of like a bit like of a cat that like the street is kind of watching over. And every time I pass it, someone else comes by and is like, tells me something about the cat. So like it's kind of that cat is like connecting me to people in my road. So I think there's something really special about that. Yeah, and I'm just gonna keep exploring that relationship basically. And also like what is it? I mean, in this country, obviously, the way that we have pets is that we own each pet and we take care of each pet in our
Mm.
home. But there are other countries where pets kind of like in Turkey, for example, or in some places in Greece where pets are kind of taken care of by the community in different ways. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what it feels like to kind of be a friend with a cat, you know?
Yeah.
That's
There's
so beautiful. I love that. Sorry,
there's a
Sop,
big
go
cat
ahead.
called Oscar who roams around where I live and goes for miles, but goes into different people's houses. Can't come into here because there's a cat, but the ones who don't have cats, this has got made. There's tuna over here at number 5. There's some biscuits. Legendary.
I do
Great.
think it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? Having it is really interesting that we have such an extensive ownership of cats in this country and ownership of animals in general, and it's so sanitized. If you have cats on the street, people call animal control about them, and yet we have this horrible housing situation where it's hard to own a cat if you're a renter. Our cat isn't really supposed to be here, although they changed the law a bit during the pandemic, but I think it comes back to this problem of like lack of access to community, that why we sort of have this craving for like a pet of one's own, a den of one's own, spaces to hide our own gardens, because we don't have access to public space in the same way. We don't own the space collectively.
Yeah.
Oh, Florence, age 6, is wondering, when did you fall in love with cats? I am gonna shoot that at Sop first of all.
I first cat when I was 19 or 20 or early 20s or something. I wasn't allowed to have them when I was a kid. And then the moment when I realized, because I wasn't living at home, and I was like, I can get one now. It's me. I can get one. That's fine.
Yeah.
And that was just the best day. And I've never looked back. I've always had a cat. So late on, I would say. And I don't think I was friends with any other cats actually until then. Yeah.
What about you, Dre? Oh, you said early on in your life, right?
Yeah, my mom had cats like when I was born. So like there's pictures of me as a little baby, like with hanging out with cats. So yeah, since I was a baby, Florence.
And you were the cat, yeah.
And I was a cat as
You
well.
were the cat, yeah. So perfect. I went to therapy when I was a teenager for a cat phobia briefly. I saw one peeing out his bum. I didn't know what spraying was while I was doing my paper rounds, and I was horrified. But then also, I think it was like coming to terms with my dad had a really beautiful cat called Bagheera, and then he went to live in America for a few years, and the cat had been really bullied by some other cats and had to have some surgery. And when he came back, the cat was really aggressive all of a sudden. Had been really friendly, and then he was really aggressive and wouldn't take an approach. And my younger siblings were very young at that point, and so he was quite jumpy around those. And I think it like threw up a lot of like, I don't know where I fit in the world, my sense of belonging. And now I understand that the cat just needed space, and actually he became a really friendly cat again once we gave him space. But I grew up with a lot of dogs in my home, and it took me ages to understand that there's something really powerful about a creature that comes to you when it wants to, rather than, I mean, I love dogs too. I like all the animals. I'm like a little sucker for every single creature. But it was interesting to kind of have this experience and realize that the cat being able to come and go as it pleases is a privilege, not just something that it's doing, but to you. You're not the center of the narrative here.
Yeah, and being chosen by a cat is the absolute best.
Oh,
It's unbelievable.
yeah, you feel like you won everything.
Like that trust.
Thank you, Florence, for that excellent question. I really, really am very happy. Yeah, being chosen by a cat, incredible.
Feel a bit like a weird master criminal because I'm just here stroking a cat like the whole way through.
It's so interesting, isn't it? How cat people are presented. They're like two tropes on TV, like the crazy cat lady and the like evil villain, often who is disabled. And I think that's really interesting.
And where are the cool guys just who have cats? You know?
Yeah,
right here.
I think that it's one. I genuinely think it's a thing about like a fear of like when you prioritize a cat. Like I talk about cats as part of like a queer family unit, like that they're like centered in my life in a way that like taps into something where I haven't chosen a normative route for my life, and I think it feels really. For me, that feels really important because so often the idea of like a single woman who only has cats, for instance, is like a trope on TV. It's mocked and derided, and I think when we look at things that are mocked and derided that much on TV, often it's things that are scary and like ties into narratives around witchcraft and these ideas of like if you that lady who with her cats, who is also me, isn't centering another human in their life in the way that we're typically told we should. And I think that's really
why doesn't that happen with dog owners? I don't really see the difference at all, you know?
Yeah,
with those crazy dog owners, that doesn't happen.
It doesn't, does it? Yeah.
No.
I have a question from Daniel Ashworth. Abby, how did you meet Sop and Dre? Thank you for your question, Daniel. I will start with Dre, who I met first. Dre was hosting a podcast called Bears at a Picnic, Naked and Laughing in what, 2018, 2017?
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah, and
it was actually a radio show.
It was a radio show. Oh, I'm so sorry. I listened to it in podcast form because I was on it. It was a really great radio show. I think you did so many interesting, like you had so many interesting guests. It was with Mish Madsen, and it was a really interesting experience because we had this really interesting connection. You talked about clowning, you talked about your own practice in really interesting ways. I was talking about a project called Crip Casino. And it was one of those things. And then during the pandemic, like with so many people, we kind of reconnected after a long time apart. And that's been a really nice thing to watch your career and your practice unfold.
Yeah, likewise. We actually reconnected because I wanted to get off the internet.
Yeah.
Which I actually reconnected with a few people because I was just like, I want to get off the internet, and there was a few people who were like, me too, and then I really reconnected with those people, so that was interesting.
Yeah, it's actually so interesting, isn't it, that we have this sort of built collective space that's meant to kind of draw us together, but it's felt really lonely. And similar with Sop. So Sop and I met, I'd been like a big fan of Sop's work for a while, like kind of watching in the distance. And it turns out I think that my mutual, yeah. And during coronavirus, Sop got COVID about 2 weeks before I got COVID, and we're both immunosuppressed. And Sop had loads and loads of excellent tips for COVID stuff and I'd COVID like survival and how to like talk to your doctors about it. But also I'd talked about meeting another friend for the first time in person. And I think the artist Lizzie Rose, a really amazing disabled artist, had recently passed away. Incredible icon. And I'd been saying that I was really grieving the fact that although we'd connected over the years in all these different ways, we'd never been physically in a room together. And Sop got in touch and said, well, I'd like that.
Yeah.
I think we should do that. And so, yeah, we started leaving each other voice notes and then meeting in person. But in both cases, it's a situation where we were trying to get off the internet, really, wasn't it? And meet in a physical space.
But even though I did meet you through the internet, so I have at least that to thank for it. But I'm not a huge fan anyway.
Yeah, I
Huge
think
fan of you.
we've done quite a big job, all of us, of trying to like log off of Instagram, haven't we? Like, I think.
Yeah.
It's just so hard. It's like
Mhm.
go on and off, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to just remember that like it's not everything, it can feel like that sometimes. And especially if you're an artist, like, people rely on it so heavily to look at your work or like just see what you're up to.
Mm.
So that's why it's great to have these talks and things like this, because it allows people to come together and find other ways to find other artists.
Yeah, other ways to reconnect. Which brings us neatly to the end of the show. Dre, how can we find more about your work?
You can look at my website, which is at www.andreaspisto.com. And you can also, that will be probably the best way, because sometimes I am on social media and sometimes I'm not. So my website is definitely the best way to find my work.
Mm-hmm. And thank you. And Sop, where can we find more of your lovely work?
You can find it, all of the Den stuff, actually, all of the projects, all of that on sop.rest. Very simple.
Excellent.
That's the website. I
Yeah.
think they meant it for restaurants to use, but I thought it was hilarious. So sop.rest.
It's the best place
Love
to a den of your own right on the internet, little resting space for us all.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being such excellent guests, both of you. I wish we could talk for another 2 or 3 hours, really.
Let's do it.
We can.
Yes, carry on. Thanks, viewers. You can join or leave. I'm going to do my spiel now, which is a reminder if you do want to catch up on my film series, Abi Palmer Invents the Weather. Episode 1 and 2 are out on our Angels YouTube channel right now. Episode 2 is about building dens as well. So if any of this content has felt appealing to you, you know where to look next. New episodes are released every Tuesday for the rest of March. Next Tuesday, we're back with episode 3, Light. It's my personal favorite because it's got a disco ball. Then join us for the after party right here on this little couch on Thursday, 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Next Thursday, we will hopefully be joined by the incredible Gabriela de la Puente to talk about rest, isolation, and manifesting a better world. Let's hope she recovers from COVID. Everyone pray for Gabriela. Come and join us and tell all your friends. Until then, don't forget to show your pets the weather. I wanted to say some thank yous. Thank you so much to Art Angel for commissioning this project, and thank you to Tank TV and the World Weather Net for hosting it on their channels over March. Thank you, Marina Dorites and Michael Morris, for your excellent production skills, and thank you so much to Lily Max Hager for another excellent week of pet show reels and your incredible tech support. The wonderful Nick Murray, thank you for your title and outro music, which you will all hear here. Nick's responsible for all the compositions and beautiful sound in the weather series. Any other sounds in this program, the 2 jingles were written by yours truly, and I think they're masterpieces, if I say so myself. Everything else is stock music. So we don't need to thank those people, but I am thankful, stock music makers. I am thankful. I just don't know who I'm thanking. I'm just grateful to exist, and it is really good to have you there. Thank you to Mia Maxwell for styling my gorgeous outfit today, and thank you to Faye Carla for making up my beautiful face. My cat collaborators were as antisocial as ever, so no need to thank them, but a massive thank you to you, the audience, for tuning in, and a huge thank you to our special guest Sop and Drake. That's awkward clapping from me. I'm so grateful. I'm your host, Abi Palmer, and this has been The Weather. Goodbye.